That's how I met Jonny Torres. He and I were both doing a charity gig for them over the summer, and that's how we first made contact, and I got to know the people here at Bake More Pies.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I do donate my time every single year is because I have my bouts with melancholy, we'll call it.
Okay.
And I've never been officially diagnosed with anything, but I can definitely get to points in my head where I'm like, what, F it all. Screw this. I'm out. And have to fight through those moments.
Wow. Yeah, and it's...
He's here?
It just popped up. Yeah,
Oh, there you are. Ken Gibson wants to connect with me.
All right.
You lucky guy.
There you go.
And it's tough because it's one of those things that it's especially difficult to understand. Top right, hit the little video. It's especially difficult to understand if you've never gotten to that point in your life. And so while I feel disconnected from it in many ways, I also,
I'm glad.
yeah, I mean, but I certainly feel for those that suffer through that.
All right. He's
going to call him or? Oh, there we go.
Well, when my grandmother passed a couple of years ago, she lived a long, long life, and she talked a little bit about that, like the week prior to passing. She basically said she spent her life happy. She didn't understand those people who had, would hear stories of friends. She's like, they couldn't get out of bed in the morning, just couldn't get out of bed, and she couldn't wrap her head around that. And I'm glad you can't either.
Yeah,
because it sucks.
No, and there are people who are very insensitive to it because they don't understand.
They're
like
real jerks.
Yeah, like snap out of it, or
just kill yourself. Just kill yourself.
Right. Yeah. It's so go full screen on him if you don't mind.
I surely will. I'm going to go full screen on you, Ken.
All right, sounds good.
How have you been?
I'm doing good. Good to see you.
Good to see you, and welcome to the new show. What do you think?
Thank you. I think it's awesome.
Because I had you in on my last show, which was on an AM station, a very traditional radio kind of a thing, and it's good to have you on the new show.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for inviting me, and glad to be part of it.
All right, I want to talk to you guys so we can get some information out there because the holidays, that time of year, and of course, as we're all talking about how this time of year fills so many people with joy and hope and positive feelings this time of year. Man, it is the exact opposite for other people.
Sure, and it kind of goes both ways. It's a time of year where some people it's the peak of their year. They're doing fine, and even if they're struggling through the rest of the year, they're spending time with families, and it's a good experience. But on the other side of things, there are people out there who are alone and may not have a support system around them, and for them it can be very lonely time of year.
And it can trigger things in a similar way that Facebook and social media triggers that kind of melancholy, because they look around, it seems like everybody around them is happy and they're having a good time and are having fun with life, except for them. They start to feel even more and more withdrawn alone.
Sure. Well, I think just like anything else on social media, people use social media to kind of put their best foot forward.
Yeah.
So most people are not going to communicate the struggles, and like here's a good example. Okay. I see this on my social media is that you have those parents who will show their kids straight A's and show their kids are on the honor roll and that sort of thing. They aren't, the parents whose kids came home with D's, they're not posting that report card on Facebook. No. But that's out there. That's happening. So you have to kind of keep the social media in check.
All right. So there at the Tampa Crisis Center, as you guys go into the holidays, do you guys ramp up anything?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the things that we do is we work with families throughout the year who are experiencing crisis and trauma in their lives. And so during the holidays, one of the things we do is a holiday giving program where we have businesses in the community who will donate toys, gift cards that we provide to the kids and families that we help throughout the course of the year. And then obviously if somebody is struggling this time of year, we do have a contact center. We answer the 211 calls for Hillsborough County. We answer local calls for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So if somebody is struggling, they can give a call to 211 24 hours a day and connect to the support that they really need.
So even me here in Pinellas County, if I just dial 211, send. It's not a pound 211. It's just 211.
It's just 211. And the way it works is that there's different organizations that answer 211, provide emotional support. And one of the big thing that 211 does is it connects people to community resources. So if you're going through a difficult time and you know there's organizations that can help you, by calling 211, you can have a conversation with somebody who will connect you to support. And it works in every county in the state of Florida. So we answer it for Hillsborough County, but it's 211 is answered in every county in Florida.
So what happens if somebody calls a 211? I'm just going to throw out a random scenario.
Yeah.
Say you're in a place and you're trying to connect with, say, somebody I will call, say, your wife or your husband. Mm-hmm. And that person doesn't seem to understand at all what it is you're going through in that moment, and is even piling on to whatever's happening in your head. When that person calls 211 and goes, "Hey man, I just need someone to talk to," what kind? Because I would imagine it's not as simple as, "Hey, I just need someone to talk to," and they go, "Yeah, go ahead. What's going on?" I'm sure they have to get your name and some basic information. They have to ask you, "Are you about to hurt yourself or somebody else?" I'm sure there's some of that stuff in the beginning, right?
Sure, they're trained, and one of the things they're not gonna do is ask you your name. And that's
okay.
It's a confidential call, so you're going to speak privately with somebody in terms of what you're going through. And the specialists there, they receive very in-depth training in terms of having these sort of calls and providing emotional support. And one of the things they're going to do is they're going to ask questions to kind of dig to the root of what you're going through, because the reason you're calling may be a symptom, but it may not be the root of the problem. So we basically call it sitting with them, kind of sitting with them on the phone, finding out what's going on, asking additional questions, and from there we might get down to a root cause, and there may be some support that we might be able to connect that person to.
And so then that person connects you to whoever who can help you. Now, are those people that initially answer the phone, are those volunteers, or those social workers? What kind of background do they have?
It's a combination. It's people who they have college degrees, social work, psychology. Many of them are training to they be working on a master's degree, but they have experience in training. And a big part of it is that they have the heart to be able to help somebody, but at the same time they're able to balance it where they can take multiple calls and themselves be able to process that and not get overwhelmed emotionally by the calls that come in.
What if somebody calls, they're in a bad place, but they're also, you can tell that they're on something. You can tell by their state that there is something in their system, even if you can't figure out what it is.
Gotcha. Well, that's actually interesting. It's one of the things that we do is we actually also answer statewide calls for the Florida Substance Abuse Hotline. So we have addiction resources throughout the entire state of Florida that we can connect people to. So we get specific calls about addiction. And so if we recognize that somebody might be having a substance, and that may be part of the questioning is like, okay, what are you taking? That sort of a thing. And
what are you on? I'm not judging you. I just need
rehab resources.
So you're like, what are you on? I'm not judging you, but I just need you to be honest with me so we can figure this thing out.
Yeah. Were you drinking? Did you take some opioids? That sort of a thing. And and then obviously if somebody is in danger, we will try to talk to them, find out where they are, and send intervention if we need to, so they're safe.
Hey Ken, it's Johnny.
Hey Johnny.
So again, I don't know if you kind of heard the first part of our conversation on this, but I've been fortunate to not have these type of issues. Could you ask the question? The audio broke apart for a second. Could you ask the question again? Okay. So I was just kind of laying the groundwork leading up to the question, which is, I personally have been fortunate to not have these struggles, but for instance, there were two friends of mine who passed away this year. And so when we look at those kind of situations where maybe there's been a year of deaths in the family, and holidays is when that hits hardest, might you be able to share some coping mechanisms, some tips as to how best to deal with that through the holidays?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that we do with people is what we do safety planning. If they have having some thoughts where they're struggling emotionally. The very first thing, and I think it's important for me to lay out that I am not a licensed clinical social worker. I'm the marketing director here, but I work very closely with the individuals that are providing direct support. So I kind of am familiar with the sort of help that they provide. And the very first thing is don't be afraid to seek help. If you're having those thoughts, for one thing, you can call 211. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is 1-800-273-TALK. And that's one thing. Another thing is just seek out a safe person. If you have somebody that you can trust, that you can have a conversation with, that you can even spend time with. Sometimes just by spending time with somebody, make you feel less lonely. If you have a friend or family member, that sort of a thing.
And don't feel like you're putting them out.
Relationship with.
Don't feel like you're putting that friend or family member out. They don't want to hear my stuff again. That might even be true that they don't want to hear your stuff again. But if you have that person in your life, they will listen to it again. If they will, if they're a friend or a family member, they will listen to it again and help you out. So.
Yeah, and it's important to take care of yourself. That's a way to counterbalance some of those negative feelings is to do things that will be that you enjoy. And obviously we would not recommend drinking, and that's going to make things worse. But in terms
what about
of
pot? What about marijuana?
Once again, we're not going to push substance abuse, substances or anything like that. We would recommend perhaps if you enjoy going to the beach, hanging out on the beach, that sort of a thing, positive activities in that sense.
Yeah, I've always heard helping out other people makes you feel better too. If you get into those modes, just get out and help somebody else. Man, I can't even get out of bed, much less get up and help somebody out, else out right now. And that's what sucks about depression, those kinds of things too, is that they are it's spiraling, it's compounding, and the things a lot of those things that'll help you make you feel better, working out, getting out, and just those things are almost for some people can be insurmountable. Yes, it's easy to say if you just did A, B, and C, it might help turn things around. But a lot of times it's easier said than done.
And that's one of the things that we do is through those conversations is ask them, okay, what sort of things do you enjoy? And that's part of the safety plan that we develop with them is do you enjoy playing guitar? Do you enjoy cooking? And just encouraging them. And we actually will also, for people who are having thoughts of suicide, we have staff members who, if the person chooses to say, okay, this is my name, this is my phone number, we'll actually make follow-up calls to them. We'll put them into what's called a care coordination program, where we'll actually take those safety plan notes and encourage them to, and that can be, the encouragement can be those positive activities. It can also be counseling as well, and making sure that they're connecting to the help that they need.
And back to Johnny's question, Ken, and last year, we're coming up on the anniversary this year of one of my cousins committing suicide. 17.
Wow.
17 years old. We still don't know why.
Yeah.
It seemed very abrupt and sudden to everybody around him. How do we as family members and friends support those families during the holidays or when those anniversaries come up? I know that can be very awkward because you want to make sure you say and do the right things without sending them into a hysterical crying fit. But at the same time, if we went back to the previous year of my cousin's life, and I know this is the kind of things that are driving my cousin, his mother and father, insane. Was trying to go. What could we have seen something? Could we have caught something? What should parents be looking for in their teens? As their teenagers are getting to that age, because a lot of those signs that they say to look out for are also the same signs of just average, just going through phases in your teen years.
Sure,
all of a sudden, you're a little bit more antisocial. You're dressing in black. Was my son getting ready to kill himself? That is not necessarily the case. So how do you, what do you do?
I think if you have a child who says that they're I want to kill myself, that sort of thing, don't brush that off.
Right.
Sit down, talk with them. Once again, if you're in that situation and you have a teen or a child who you're concerned about, call 211 and have a conversation with the specialist. You can call 24 hours a day. and they will talk with you, perhaps give you some advice, maybe even connect you to resources. But in terms of the warning signs, not everybody. There are warning signs, but not everybody will exhibit those warning signs.
Right.
But if somebody gets withdrawn, if they talk about feeling worthless, that people would be better off without them, if they start giving things away, those are all warning signs and things that should be acknowledged and where you may want to try to connect them to help and support. But not everybody goes. Each person's different in terms of how they process. So there are going to be people out there who kind of wear that face, and you don't realize what they're going through. But I think it reiterates the importance of being contributing to your community, being talking with people, spending time with them, really truly checking in and seeing how they're doing, and maybe then that your friends and family might be open up, maybe go a little deeper with them in terms of just how their life is going and stuff like that.
On the Wake.Show today, we have Ken Gibson from the Tampa Bay Crisis Center, and 211 is a very important phone number. But 211 isn't just about those who are on the verge or feel like they are going to commit suicide.
No,
kill themselves.
No, it's not.
You guys are connected. You guys are connected to a lot. The setup here was you guys are connected to a lot of things. So as Corge pointed out earlier, if you guys have a friend that comes to you and says they have just been sexually assaulted and
sure.
they don't know what to do, they can call 211. You guys have the resources to handle that as well.
Sexually assaulted, sexually harassed. Part of what we do as an organization is that we're the Rape Crisis Center for Hillsborough County. So we work directly with sexual assault survivors in terms of we have victim advocates on staff who work with them, who will even go into a courtroom and sit with them to provide emotional support. We have trauma counseling. So if somebody, and that goes back to whether the harassment or assault took place a week ago or 20 years ago, counseling is available to be able to help people through that struggle that they're going through.
And before we get you off the stream today, let's talk a little bit about the veterans, because you guys, it's also an important part of your mission is to make sure that those veterans are taken care of.
Yeah, it's a few years ago we actually launched a pilot program called the Florida Veteran Support Line, and that's a toll-free number that veterans can call to connect to both veteran resources and non-veteran related resources, the whole process. And it's something that is available to all veterans. So if you served one day in the military, you can call that number. And even if you're not qualifying for VA resources, there may be other community resources or veteran-specific resources that are available to you for all veterans that we can connect you to. And that number is 1-844-MyFLVET. In the case of what we're doing in the Tampa area, we have vet specialists where the veteran is talking to another vet. That number is actually going to expand throughout the entire state of Florida and be answered by other 2-in-1 systems. It won't be to the point where they have peer-to-peer vet specialists, but it is a number that they can call and connect to veteran resources and also emotional support, just be able to sit and talk with them and provide the same sort of service that we're providing through the 2-in-1 system.
Ken Gibson from Tampa Bay Crisis Center, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation, and good to see you, Chris.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.